Hi, my name is Troy Strand. I'm a teacher at Venture Academy in Minneapolis. It's a small charter school. It's been open for about 3 years. So we're going to talk about Student Solve today, which was the first place winner at the Startup Weekend EDU a couple weeks ago. We've got a variety of folks up here. We've got Eli, who's our developer and programmer. We've got Jesus and Fidel, Jack, and Aria, who are all students at Venture Academy in 7th and 8th grade. So would we like to start with Jesus or Eli?
Can you see the board? Yeah, okay. We are Student Solve, yeah. And I personally have tried making my own fundraiser campaign to get money for computers for our school. But during that process, found out that the websites are made mostly for adults, and it makes it harder for students because they expect you to know what you're gonna write and how to write it.
And so we went to Startup Weekend to not only solve that problem, but to also get a feel of what it's like to be an entrepreneur.
Over the weekend that we were over there, our group contacted over 40 students to give us feedback on if they were interested in fundraising or if they really even cared about fundraising. But most of them they weren't interested at all about fundraising, like more of like a boring thing to them.
A few people who were interested had done it before and been successful. They understand that it wasn't just for adults and they could do it too.
Yeah, so we also interviewed teachers to kind of validate our what our hypothesis was that fundraising is difficult for students and for teachers. The number one complaint that we found from teachers is that it just takes so much time. There are sites like Donors Choose, and there's Kickstarter and Indiegogo, but even with those things, it's still the teacher who's the center, and it doesn't really empower students that much. And there's been research done on what the impact of empowering students does to the classroom. It improves academic performance, and it improves, it reduces negative behaviors in students because they feel as if they're invested in that classroom. And so what we decided at Startup Weekend EDU was to try to capitalize on what Jesus's fundraising campaign was able to do, but make it easier for students in the future. And so we came up with Student Solve, which is a crowdfunding platform that's designed specifically for students. And I'm going to turn it over to Eli to talk about the tech specs.
Right, so we put together a prototype during Startup Weekend, and we'll kind of show you and walk you through how that prototype works here. But one thing, I think the real challenge with crowdfunding and really, crafting any sort of communication material, as a grad student, I did a crowdfunding campaign, and getting an empty text box where you have to tell the world your problem and why you are raising money is incredibly intimidating, no matter what your education level is. And so our goal is to make that easy for students of any age to do that. And so with Student Solves, our goal is to enable students to raise funds and advocate for themselves and their communities. And how we do that is we go by step, and ask questions. What are the students' problems? And we capture those responses. Then the outcome of our application is that students get a well-crafted message that they can use on a crowdfunding site, hopefully our own platform. They can use an email and even reaching out to the press with a press release. So we'll actually walk you through. We can actually go up and click plan. And this is kind of our demo prototype where we just ask simple questions. So the first one might be, who are you helping? In this case, let's fill out one for Mr. Strand here, Troy. And we're helping out his Makerspace class. So this is important. As each question we answer here is flowing into a database, and we're starting to build the semantic knowledge about what their problem is. So then we might ask, how are we helping them? We're raising money for 3D printers. So Makerspaces are run on 3D printers, basically, but they're expensive. And so what's the problem? What is the core problem that actually needs to be solved by getting 3D printers? And why does it need to be solved? So these are all important constructs we're building into the student's mind about structuring their problems, articulating what's important about that problem, why it needs to be solved, and then defining solutions for that. In this case, and again, it's just a simple web interface. Type it right in. And as we capture these, we're also looking at sort of following up. Once they've defined a solution, what are the outcomes? How can they measure success? And again, all of these are simple one-sentence responses, and the goal is to capture that in sort of fine-grained detail. And then also really important is following up with donors. So how do we actually connect with donors and build that relationship? So finally, we'll just put in the amount of money we need and what product we are looking to fund here. And there we go, it's done. So now all those responses flow into a variety of pitches, and we can just save this. So anyone can do this. They don't actually need to make an account. They can try out this whole product right now. You all can too. And it flows right into a crowdfunding campaign pitch. So all those responses now, we can just write out the whole sentence for them. And they didn't even know the whole time. They're just answering these simple questions. Now it flows into a crafted pitch. And the exciting thing is, we kind of structured it for them. They got a good pitch going, with really low investment. And ideally, we're going to be able to launch this on our own crowdfunding platform, where there'll be mini pitches, all, level the playing field, and they're not competing against a professionally produced campaign with a marketing CMO, on the team. But we can take the same responses, flow it into an email, and do an email campaign. Email is one of the most successful fundraising channels. It really connects with their local network, has amazing impact for generating funds and solving problems in the community. Also, again, the nice thing is we can flow this into any sort of document. So a press release, also huge for getting visibility and reaching out to their local newspaper. So we can enable that. So the nice thing, again, about this whole structure, looking forward to the future, what we can do is we can actually constantly improve. Because we've captured all this in a database and we have all these little chunks, we can use A/B testing and machine learning to play around with how are we framing the question. Can we craft that crowdfunding pitch in a new way? And can we track who's successful and why they're successful and use that to sort of give students the best chance, give them the best pitch, and really focus on the idea. And we'll do the busy work of presenting it in the best possible way. Another nice thing, because it's so structured, we can look at multiple language support. So we can reach out to different languages and speak to the world. As a business model, we're looking at a classic crowdfunding business model, so collecting a percentage of donations, but we are also getting incredibly valuable data about what works in crowdfunding and fundraising. So all that data we get about successful campaigns is valuable to other companies like Kickstarter and Indiegogo, and we're testing it out with this, the student market. So we are Student Solves, but more importantly, I want to, give a hand to these students for coming up with a problem, having the guts to get up there and pitch it and solve it. So let's give it to them.
Thank you very much, Eli. Once again, our questions would be how we can help you out. What is the URL that you've got up there the same that people would go to if they wanted to try out this platform?
Correct, studentsolve.co. And then you can reach out to us at info@studentsolve.co or on Twitter @studentsolve.
So there again, to form the conversation here, how you, your presentation coming here, besides giving your students good pitch practice, other ways that you're able to get help from this audience.
Right. Well, I guess the big one is 2 weeks ago, Student Solve didn't exist. We're jumping in the deep end, and we could use all the guidance and mentorship that we could get. By no means am I an expert at entrepreneurship. This is my first foray into it. And these students, we're all students right now. We're all learning, and we'd love to plug into the community and get your advice, get your mentorship, and help us figure out how to make this business. And really, what we'd like to do is take that knowledge and continue it. We want to flow that into our system so that other students can get that same wisdom and insight that you guys are providing, and craft that and redistribute it to anyone through a platform.
Yeah, and so at Venture Academy, what we do is we build entrepreneurs by developing the independent scholarship and leadership of young people. This is the first big project that students have put together. And it really was their idea. They recruited a team of adults. 2 weeks ago, they didn't know Eli. They knew me, and they called me Mr. Strand at school, but because we're business partners now, they call me Troy outside of school. But it was really put together. They pitched it. They were one of the finalists, and they recruited a team, myself included. I went separately, and they were very persistent and convinced me to join them. But this is a student-led venture, and if we could get more community partners with Venture Academy, right now it serves 6th, 7th, and 8th grade students, and it is expanding into high school next year with 9th grade, and then subsequent years, 10th, 11th, and 12th. Getting experts in the community who can help students make their dreams come true and bring those visions to life, that would be something huge for the Student Solve team, because we've also brought other students who are interested in joining us and starting their own ventures as well.
I'm wondering if there's a check valve in there. What you've got right now is students have an idea, they're going to throw it out there. It could be $12,000 for bubble gum because that's what they want today. I see $4,000 for 4 3D printers right now. I'm looking at it saying, why do you start with 4? Why don't you start with 1, build your games, sell your games, and get your own money to buy your own? Then you're only after $1,000. You can do that in a heartbeat. Is there a way to give you input, or do you just vote yes or no and contribute to the offer as presented?
Right, that's a really good question, and that speaks to another complex part of this whole fundraising. What's the appropriate ask? What do you actually ask for? And that's something we could probably do some coaching. I think keeping the dollar amount pretty low really will have to focus the students. I mean, we're going to convince them not to try raising $1 million to build their own play place in their school or something. But that's definitely something that, maybe we can help focus that in those questions early on and have them justify all these expenses, that they're raising funds for. So really good insight, and I think that would be an excellent thing to build into the platform.
Hi, Ned over here. Again, awesome job. Congratulations, guys. I'd like to hear from the kids if anybody would be willing to respond to this. And the question is, how is this different, aside from the fact that you guys are creating content, or and you're being stepped through, but how is this different than Donors Choose?
This is different because it's teaching the way the students to fundraise their own money and not ask for the adults to do the job for them. And they are doing this by simply answering questions, which makes it easier for them, so they don't have to be professionals at writing proposals or anything like that.
And Donors Choose is mainly for teachers. Student Solve focuses on kids. Not all teachers have time, or they're super busy doing other things. When kids have problems, they can solve it this way.
Great points. Thank you.
Hey, good morning. So one of the reasons that a lot of those other websites don't focus towards students and young people is because there's a thing called the Child Online Privacy Act or whatever, which makes it extremely difficult to market towards people under the age of 13. And it sounds like that's your target market. So I was wondering what you're doing in order to be compliant with that law and how you're going to just be compliant, I guess. What are your plans for that?
Really good question, and I think as part of winning the Startup Weekend, we did win some free legal advice, which will be amazing for answering that question. And it's something that we're definitely concerned about and thinking about. The first thing we were thinking about was getting a terms of service and a privacy policy set up. But I think for us, it's going to be building that awareness of what all the details of that law are, and looking for success elsewhere. So I know there's some other websites, Disney's created websites and various online communities for children. I think we're going to have to look at what they did to get around that and take a page from their book.
Yeah, and another thing that we're considering implementing is having an adult checkpoint, either a teacher or a trusted parent or guardian, to kind of be the money holder. Because, I mean, we've talked to a lot of different people, and people have different opinions on whether or not, like, oh, a group of kids, this is really cool, I want to give them money, or there's no adult with them, I don't trust them to not be spending all their money on bubblegum, you know. So having some kind of a fiduciary go-to person for that, I think, would assist with the Online Privacy Act.
Hi there. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. This is such a great idea. I actually just created a campaign, so off my phone. The fact that I can do that during the question started, that's fantastic. Now, granted, it just says test, 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 test. Hopefully you guys might see that. But great presentation. The biggest thing with the age verification, excellent point. What I suggest doing is getting an age parameter set up on the website. That's the suggestion. Now, the question is, what social media integration have you done? Do you have a Facebook, a Twitter? I see that you have a handle. What do you do on your different Twitter accounts? What is the social media integration?
Right now, the social media integration is our Twitter page. Reaching out to different startups, different educational leaders. We have 44 followers as of this morning, which is super cool for being 2 weeks old. But just kind of defining ourselves as a local expert, I say expert, on kind of the viewpoint of kids in crowdfunding. I think that it's an untapped market, and it's a space that students really can take some leadership. We're waiting on just solidifying our name before we launch a Facebook page, because you can't change the name a whole lot. Instagram is a thing. I don't know, I'm 31 and I don't get it. But all these kids, I'm like, it's like Facebook, but with fewer words. And they're like, no, okay. So having an Instagram page and having one of these kids be our webmaster, his eyes just lit up. So he also follows us on Twitter, so he's all about it. Do you want to speak to that?
Good question. And then, you know, really what would be awesome long term then is building the integrations with the campaigns themselves. And so we'd set it up, serve an app that, you know, do all the registration for them. And I think one of the really powerful things I'd love to tap into would be the timeline for launching. So when these students push that launch button, it gives them that timeline where it's like they're doing the tweets when they need to be doing tweets. They're doing posts on their Facebook when they need to be doing posts. And that's something that's really intimidating, is coordinating that. So we'll give them sort of that you know, baked in timeline and run them right through it. So ideally we could post directly to their Twitter and Facebook. Cool. Yeah, awesome.
So really inspiring again. The whole idea of youth-centered empowerment and outreach is great. Are you a C Corp, or have you thought about maybe thinking 501c3, or what's your business background for this? Like, what are you guys built as?
We're again, something we're debating heavily. So we're looking at all options, and this would be something that we would love the community's advice on. You know, we looked at obviously a nonprofit or a C Corp. A B Corp would be very interesting, and maybe you know, in some ways an excellent fit for what we're doing, because we want the potential to grow, and we want to take this and, you know, make it sustainable and really give it, you know, some traction to get going. So I guess maybe I could open up, and what are your guys' thoughts? Like, what do you think would be a good fit? LLC?
Yeah, B Corp makes sense.
B Corp? Really, and can you expand on that, why that is?
A B Corp makes the statement that you're being a good guy. If you just got a C Corp or an S Corp, you can be a good guy, but you don't have to follow the rules that you're doing with a B Corp. With a B Corp, you can't go back. With an LLC, you can always move to a B Corp if that's what you decide you want to do. With a B Corp, you can't move back, and it's got restraints like being a nonprofit does. A nonprofit's a nightmare. Trying to figure out how to do all the stuff there that you need to do in order to comply, and if you screw it up, you're toast.
No.
So an LLC is much more forgiving.
Right. So if you kind of had to rank it, then, you know, it's LLC and then a B Corp, but a nonprofit is really the. Well, and what's your perspective on investors then? Would an investor be much more willing to, you know, we're going to have the same mission regardless, right? Does that affect the investor equation and kind of what investors would want to put money in, like an LLC versus a B Corp? Great. Again, that free legal advice is going to be excellent. Great, thank you. And we'll move on to the next question here. Sorry.
So, so first of all, congratulations on all the work. It sounds like you know, you guys are doing a fabulous job. I actually run a youth entrepreneurship program, so I teach kids about running a small business. And my take is similar. I mean, definitely advice. There's so many. Obviously there's lots of options, and you just have to pick which one's best for this entity. You know, I'm not a lawyer, so I won't give any unbiased opinions. But I guess one of my questions is, how do you intend on taking this to market with regard to the youth? Are they the originators of the program? And if so, how is their stake in the business going to be validated through whatever entity's created?
Really, really good question. And you know what? These kids are our co-creators. This was their idea that they brought to Startup Weekend. And so I think they definitely have a stake in the company. And in many ways, they provide a tremendous amount of value by being our target market. They are plugged into the people we are working for. And they are the beta testers. They can feel it out. They can give us such amazing feedback that many companies that don't employ children as their co-founders, you know, are missing out on. So I think they have amazing value.
Yeah, well, we found, and it's including them on every step of the process was a big part of that. Always having them, giving them tasks to do, but they also came up with a lot on their own. Like, because our vision initially was kind of a website to help people launch like an Indiegogo. But even still, that was just a nightmare. And just getting their perspective on like, this was really confusing. Like that to them was kind of a throwaway statement, but to us it was like valuable data. Like this is important and we have an edge because we have you guys as, you know, an insight from you guys. And what we found in our student research, these students reached out to their personal networks. And these are students at Venture Academy and Minneapolis Public Schools. And they just didn't seem that interested in crowdfunding and in fundraising. I reached out to my student network of former students in suburban Apple Valley, and they were all like, oh my gosh, I've done crowdfunding and it's super cool, and I love fundraising, and I did this, and I did this. And it just seems like there's a big barrier to just excitement about it because of the experiences that they've had. So if we can use their experience as kind of a jumping off point to sell this product and say, this is what you can be capable of, this is something we created and we're doing this, it's just that excitement factor that really builds it in.
I guess that doesn't really answer my question. My question is more specifically, what is the youth's stake in this business with regard to the percentages or what their takeaway is after helping co-create this business?
I think that I'm being as fair as possible with financial distribution. We don't know how we're going to incorporate it all. And I don't know what the law is on paying people under, 14, some of them are. We want them to get money. I mean, that's a big thing, is real world money from it.
And I think, so this is, again, obviously something we need to discuss with our lawyers, but I really see some sort of vesting scheme where we can distribute shares based on the work contributed, and I think we can quantify the value they're providing and put shares on that. So in my mind, I think they're providing a very valuable service to the business. I really want to see that reflected in shares. We got to figure out the details with the lawyers to make it happen, I guess. That's true.
Great concept, and it's good that the students thought. Great concept, and it's great that the students thought of the idea and pulled you guys in. My question is, you mentioned you have a distribution of 40 or 45 on your list. How are you creating distribution lists? Are you going to, other students that went to the school, teachers, their parents, the community? What's your marketing objective to pull in, donors or fund contributors?
Right. So kind of what our marketing plan is and how we're going to grow and gain more visibility. Is that correct? Good question. I think one thing that is going to be really important is tapping into the viral nature and really getting on social media. if kids can see their peers creating these well-crafted messages and they can look at, wow, Jesus wrote that? Really? I mean, he just posted on his Facebook, look, he's solving that problem that we all experience. I mean, like, boy, everyone wants 3D printers in Mr. Strand's class. And he wrote it up, and it sounds so professional and clear. I think that's one of the most exciting routes for gaining visibility, is really a viral route. But the other thing I think we need to tap into some PR ourselves. And we have an amazing story, and I think we're looking at getting that story out there, in the media. And I think we have a post coming out, or a article coming out in MinPost, and we're really looking at gain visibility through more channels like that too. So.
Eli, we have time for one more question here.
I know you said that your focus is on students helping bring their entrepreneurial ideas to market, but have you thought about marketing this to people who have English as a second language, ideally for the fact that it helps you compose a well-written paragraph when you're soliciting funds?
Right, really good question, and that's a very logical market to get into. And I think our first customer is going to be middle schoolers. One, because we have amazing test case here that can lead the business as we go and really refine that message. But I think that's exactly right. We want to grow both down. Can we help people of any age, even younger than middle school, articulate their problems and find solutions to their problems. But then going up too, and honestly, like, I would have appreciated something like this when I ran my first crowdfunding campaign. So I think the market is huge, but really crafting anything that requires crafting a very well put together message is a potential market we could move into. So even beyond crowdfunding, I think there's a lot of potential there.
Fantastic. Well, let's have another round of applause for Eli and Troy and the whole team at Student Solve.